Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Our founding fathers were geniuses. Yeah, they understood that if the nation's capital was located in, let's say, one of the states of the Union, that state would have an advantage over the others. Because of this, they set up the District of Columbia. This is not a state, but a district that is under federal control. Today, 90% of Washington, D.C. they're registered Democrats, and they have been under liberal local rule for quite a while now. And because of this, it has led to our nation's capital becoming something close to, well, a third world country, to be honest. From a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this one. It says President Donald Trump promised on Monday to clean up crime and vagrancy in the nation's capital by shifting more responsibilities over the district to the federal government. Trump made the announcement during a press conference at the White House where he laid out a number of executive actions that he was taking to fight violent crime, decrease homelessness, and otherwise clean up Washington, D.C. Quote, I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse, Trump said. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Well, Trump on Monday invoked Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act and declared a public emergency. This granted him to move the D.C. Police Department under the control of the Justice Department. DEA Administrator Terry Cole will head the department per Trump's orders, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, and U.S. District Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, also appeared alongside Trump as at the news conference. Now, the president also added that he was sending 800 National Guard troops to patrol the streets of D.C. Last week, the administration sent 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. Quote, the murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, Trump said, adding that the only language that criminals understand is when you knock the hell out of them, unquote. Well, the president added that he would like to see Republicans in Congress move to end cashless bail in the district, saying that the policy led to lawlessness in the streets. If you don't understand what cashless bail is, basically when you are being brought up on charges and you're about to go to court, you in some states you can post bail, which means that the judge is going to give you a certain amount of money that you're supposed to pay in order to get out of jail during that time, before and during the trial. And you can go to a bond company and pay them like 10% of that or whatever, and they will pay the rest. And you only owe that to them if you decide not to show up for court, right? Well, cashless bail basically says none of that. We're just going to release you until your court date. Not obviously a good system. Well, Trump added that he planned to improve infrastructure in the district and crack down on homeless encampments. Quote, we're going to replace The medians that are falling down all over the roads, we're going to replace the potholes, he said. And Burgum, who briefly spoke during the conference, said that park police had cleared over 70 homeless camps. Not 70 homeless people, 70 homeless camps from D.C. since March of 27. I mean, we're basically talking about one city. And he's already cleared out 70 homeless camps from that city. We're going to be removing, this is a quote, we're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on, Trump said. We're moving the encampments away, trying to take care of people. Some of those people, we don't know how they even got there. So this is the kind of thing that everyone can get behind, right? I mean, you would think so, right? Who can oppose the cleaning up of a city? Well, as President Donald Trump vowed on Monday to clean up the nation's capital and crack down on the rampant crime that has made Washington, D.C. unsafe, well, apparently Democrats have a problem with that. Yeah. Representative Eric Swalwell, the Democrat from California, claimed that Trump was turning the country into a dictatorship by mobilizing police who would and people who would clean up what the city wouldn't. Here's a quote. Trump is going to federalize D.C. Senate Dems could have stopped this when we had power. In 2021, the House voted to make D.C. a state, but a few Senate Dems flinched and genuflected into the filibuster. Now D.C. will be under an aspiring dictator control, he complained. Well, House Majority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, another not so sharp knife in the drawer, objected to Trump's plan, lashing out at the president and claiming that violent crime was lower than it had been in decades. Quote, violent crime in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. Remember this, okay? It is at a 30-year low. Donald Trump has no basis to take over the police department and the zero credibility on the issue of law and order. Get lost, Jeffries posted on X. Jeffries was not alone. In fact, so many Democrats and left-leaning accounts posted the same comments almost verbatim that it actually led to a few to observe that the early morning DNC talking points email just dropped. You know how this goes, right? I mean, everybody gets the email and they're supposed to say like a particular word or a particular phrase or whatever. But as Red states, Bonci and several others pointed out, the source of the data those Democrats were citing was the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department, where a commander had just been suspended for altering crime statistics in an effort to downplay the city's obvious problem. Quote, the source of all the claims that crime is down in D.C. is the D.C. Metro PD, which is led by a far-left DEI advocate who had to suspend a commander for altering crime statistics, he wrote. So yeah, you can decide whether to trust those numbers or not. Well, that didn't stop media outlets from grabbing a bucket and carrying water for the Democrats, however. On MSNBC, host Eugene Daniels attempted to bait D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowers into making it about race, saying of Trump and Republicans, quote, they seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown, unquote. Well, CNN anchor Dana Bash, again, another kind of dull knife in the drawer, took it in a different direction, claiming that the most violent moment in the capital city's recent history was January 6th of 2021. Oh, boy. Yeah, you can go if you want to watch the whole comment. You can go on and you can see it. It's dumb. Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum defended Trump and noted that attempts to put a stop to violent crime should not be an issue divided along political lines. Well, this is not a partisan issue. This is the place where we showcase America. And we can't showcase America in a place where the police are not allowed to enforce the law, unquote. So you would think that as mayor of Washington, D.C., you would want, helping keep your citizens safe would be like a high priority. That if someone was to come along, I mean, when I was mayor, if somebody came to the city and proposed something that obviously looked like it was going to help, it was going to do something to help the citizens, I mean, I was all ears. But the answer to whether or not this particular mayor has citizen safety in mind, well, that would be another no. Washington, D.C. Democratic Mayor Muriel Bowers responded after President Donald Trump announced on Monday that he was, of course, deploying the National Guard to clean up the Capitol. The mayor objected to the move and argued that Trump's view of crime in D.C. is based on statistics from 2020. Bowers held a press conference Monday afternoon to discuss how the city would respond to Trump's order to federalize D.C. She acknowledged that violent crime spiked during the COVID pandemic. Oh, we love to blame COVID, don't we? And immediately after, COVID, that there was a spike there too, but then claimed that new laws squashed the rising crime and reversed the violent crime outbreak. Bowers then said that Trump's announcement was unsettling and unprecedented. Quote, I believe that the president's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID era experience during his first term. This is what Bowers said. And she said that, and it is true that those were challenging times related to some issues. It is also true that we experienced a crime spike post-COVID, but we worked quickly to put laws in place and tactics that got violent offenders off the streets and gave our police officers more tools. Yeah, sure you did. There were the riots, racial riots. That would be a spike. Maybe that's what you can call them. And there was defunding the police. There was that too. Giving them more tools, that doesn't seem to be true. So anyway, she goes on though, which is why we have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. Sure. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike, Bowers said, adding that the current crime statistics pushed by the Metropolitan Police Department show the nation's capital is at a 30-year low in violent crime. Remember, I told you to remember that. She also said, we're not satisfied. We haven't taken our foot off the gas, and we continue to look for ways to make our city safer. Well, the White House said on Monday that the 2024 D.C. saw the fourth highest homicide rate in the country, nearly 6 times higher than New York City, and also higher than Atlanta, Chicago, and Compton. That's saying something. After saying that Trump had the authority to declare an emergency and federalize the law enforcement in D.C., Bowers pushed for statehood for the district, again, because she's not a very bright person. Quote, we know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many, many Washingtonians, before we advocate for the full statehood of the District of Columbia. We are American citizens. Our families go to war, we pay taxes, and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. While this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that, given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised, unquote. The White House wrote bluntly on Monday, quote, if Washington, D.C. was a state, it would have the highest homicide rate of any state in the union. The Trump administration has also pointed to a Washington, D.C. police commander being placed under investigation for allegedly changing crime statistics. Wow, imagine that. That investigation was announced shortly after the commander filed an equal employment opportunity claim against an assistant chief, and after the police union accused the Metropolitan Police Department of falsifying crime stats to make it appear as if the city had seen a drop in violent crime. This, according to NBC4 Washington, which reported this. Mayor Bowser admitted that Trump has the power to take control of law enforcement in D.C., promising that local authorities will cooperate with the federal government. So, as you can see, D.C. has been a terrible place to live and be safe. In fact, Washington, D.C. police recorded the 100th homicide of 2025 in the nation's capital Monday evening, just hours after President Donald Trump announced that the federal government would take control of the law enforcement to crack down on violent crime in D.C. Ty Mark Wells was 33 and was shot multiple times in D.C.'s Logan Circle neighborhood just before 7 p.m., Fox 5 reported. The victim was taken to the hospital after police arrived on the scene and was later pronounced dead. Police are searching for a man wearing a black shirt and carrying a rifle, according to NBC4 Washington. Now, Logan Circle is just 1 mile from the White House and is described as one of DC's one of their more popular neighborhoods, attracting young crowds to its restaurants and bars. And after the shooting, the Secret Service closed the Ellipse Park near the White House, along with the north and south fence lines around the White House. The D.C. Police Union, which backed Trump's decision to federalize the police department, said in a statement, quote, "Last night, D.C. suffered the grave milestone of its 100th homicide for 2025. Again, we're like, what, a week and a half into August? Let's hope this federal intervention leads to real change to the laws in D.C. that allow this to happen year after year," unquote. Well, the fatal shooting is yet another example of the violent crime plaguing the nation's capital that President Trump has vowed to root out. And the homicide rate in D.C. in 2024 reached 27.3 per 100,000 residents. That's huge, giving the U.S. Capitol the 4th highest homicide rate in any city in the country. So far in 2025, D.C. Authorities have also reported over 530 assaults with a dangerous weapon, nearly 900 robberies. Again, we're just into August, right? And yet it's also reported nearly 3,000 motor vehicle thefts. We're talking about one city here. We're not talking about the whole country. While the city has reported lower violent crime levels since record highs of 2020 and to 2023, violent crime remains much higher in D.C. than it did 10 to 15 years ago. And remember that these are the statistics that have been falsified to show the lower numbers. They are doing things like declassifying calls to classifications that do not show up as a violent crime. Still, Democratic city leaders argue that they are doing their job to address violent crime in D.C. And on Monday, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowers said that Trump's view of D.C. is shaped by his COVID experience. Now, neither Trump nor the D.C. Police Union, which represents over 3,000 officers, by the way, with the Metropolitan Police Department, agrees that Democratic leaders are properly enforcing the law and protecting Americans. The D.C. Police Union said in a statement on Monday that it acknowledges and supports the president's announcement this morning to assume temporary control of the MPD in response to the escalating crime crisis in Washington, D.C. Now, the police union that represents these 3,000 police officers, has definitely gotten behind Donald Trump's decision here. And the union said in a statement on Monday that it agrees with President Trump that the crime is spiraling out of control. Despite all these, the mayor and all these other people, they agree that crime is spiraling out of control and immediate action is necessary to restore public safety. This is what they told Fox 5. The union's positive statement toward Trump was released as the Washington, D.C. leaders criticized the administration's move to take control of the police department. Quote, the D.C. Police Union, representing over 3,000 officers of the Metropolitan Police Department, today acknowledges that and supports the president's announcement this morning to assume temporary control of the MPD in response to the escalating crime crisis in Washington, D.C. This is what the union said. It said the union agrees that crime is spiraling out of control and immediate action is necessary to restore public safety. However, we emphasize that federal intervention must be a temporary measure with the ultimate goal of empowering a fully staffed and supported MPD to protect our city effectively. So the White House argues that federalizing the Metropolitan Police Department is necessary because local leaders have failed to crack down on violent crime, highlighting statistics that show D.C. has the higher murder rate than places like Havana, Cuba, and Islamabad and things like this in Pakistan. The Trump administration also pointed to a report alleging that police officials have cooked the books, as they call it, on crime stats to show the public lower violent crime numbers than what should be reported. In 2024, Washington, D.C. saw a homicide rate of 27.3 per 100,000 residents. This is what the White House said. And they said that this was the fourth highest homicide rate in the country, nearly 6 times higher than New York City, and of course, Atlanta, Chicago, Compton, and those places. Now, this is what NBC4 Washington reported on July 18th. Okay, so this was just, month and a half ago? This is what they reported. Listen to this.
As for the union's allegations, Chairman Greg Pemberton laid it all on the table.
When our members respond to the scene of a felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or a captain that will show up on that scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. So instead of taking a report for a shooting or a stabbing or a carjacking, they will order that officer to take a report for a theft or an injured person to the hospital or a felony assault, which is not the same type of classification.
Greg Pemberton says the police department's command staff is focusing on 2 categories in order to get the numbers to fall. They are armed with a dangerous weapon, an injured person to the hospital.
When management officials are directing officers to take reports for felony assault, or if they're going back into police databases and changing offenses to felony assault is not a category of crime that's listed on the department's daily crime stats. It's also not something that's a requirement of the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program. So by changing criminal offenses from, for example, ADW bat or ADW gun to felony assault, that would avoid both the MPD and the FBI from reporting that as a Part 1 or a felony offense.
Pemberton says the union has been gathering evidence for some time now by looking at reports and talking with officers all over the city.
What we've heard through our members and through members of management that are willing to talk with the union is that this is a directive from the command staff, is that they want to make sure that these classifications of these reports are adjusted over time to make sure that the overall crime stats stay down.
As of last Monday, when we spoke with Pemberton, DC crime data shows violent crime was down 28%. Today, the department's website says violent crime is down 25% when compared to the same time last year, and overall crime is down 8%.
That's preposterous. There's absolutely no way crime could be down 28%. Last year, they suggested that it went down 34%.
Yeah, so this is just one of the reasons that Trump has had to intervene. But his time is actually limited, believe it or not. Congress will have a significant role to play if President Donald Trump wants to extend his takeover of the police in Washington, D.C. to crack down on crime for more than just simply a month. Trump invoked the Section 740 that we talked about of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act and declared a public emergency on Monday. And under the law, Trump is allowed to direct the D.C. mayor to deliver him control of the Metropolitan Police Department. However, the Home Rule Act says the president is allowed to initially use his power for up to 48 hours. If the president wants to extend this authority for 30 days, relevant committees in Congress must be notified with an explanation of the need and expanded time duration. Indeed, Trump wrote a letter on Monday to the House Oversight Committee saying he needed to address violent crime in D.C., and he noted the emergency would continue until he determined it was no longer needed or lasted for maximum period, in quotes, allowed under this Section 740. Now, any period beyond 30 days would require Congress to pass a joint resolution that authorized the extension. Presently, Republicans control both chambers of Congress, of course, and the GOP leaders of the House and Senate have both expressed approval for Trump's D.C. police takeover. Quote, every American should be able to visit and enjoy Washington, D.C. without fear. House Republicans support this effort to clean up Washington, end the crime wave, and restore the beauty of the greatness, the greatest capital in the world. This is what House Speaker Mike Johnson declared on a post on X. Now, Senate Majority Leader John Thune said, I'm grateful for Trump's leadership and for this administration's commitment to protecting communities large and small across America. Washington, D.C. should be a place where people can safely live, visit, work, and raise a family. And today's announcement is a positive step in that direction. And of course, Democrats have been heavily critical of the move and plan to push legislation that would give nation's capital full control of its police force, as well as the D.C. National Guard, which Trump previously said he would deploy to assist in the crime-fighting effort. Now, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he's the Democrat from New York, and he proclaimed that for all the talk Republicans, give about giving their localities their rights, where are they now? If this was anything other than a political ploy and attempted distraction from Trump's other scandals, if he actually cared about the people of D.C., he'd demand the House finally release the $1 billion of D.C.'s funding they've been sitting on for months. Okay. So again, what you have here is just another example of why the Democratic Party is polling at all-time lows. I mean, seriously, I think they're at, top of my head, I think it's 18% right now, approval rating. The Democratic Party is at such a low. I mean, there isn't almost anybody who's lower than they are. I mean, even media, I think, even is trusted more than Democratic Party right now. But they can't even get behind the president of the United States when he does something like this, when he finally is doing what everybody knows needs to be done. Everybody knows that Washington, D.C. is an absolute wreck. It's an absolute mess. That it is full of lawlessness. It is not under control. There's whole areas of the city that even officials will tell you don't go to, even during the day. Now, I myself have never been to Washington, D.C. I would love to. It's one of the places my wife and I would like to go. And yet, it is one of the places that is most dangerous place to visit in the entire country, and really in many parts of the world. So to have the president come in and say, okay, we're going to reestablish some law and order here. We're going to reestablish, a police presence. We're going to get rid of the chaos that's happening, the murders and the violent crime and the carjackings and all this stuff. And we're going to come in and we're going to take care of this because it's not been taken care of to this point. And the Democratic Party can't get behind that. They can't get behind something that anybody that has any level of common sense can understand is the right thing to do. You can't do that because it's Donald Trump and you have Trump derangement syndrome or whatever. This is why the Democratic Party is polling at an all-time low and nobody can trust them. Okay? This is just one of those examples. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear from you, particularly if you think that this is bad. Okay? If you think this is not the right thing to do. I would love to hear from you. And even if you do think it's the right thing, I mean, again, I'd love to hear from you. You can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. You can go to our YouTube channel where we would love to have you share that and subscribe. And again, thank you for listening.